ever use that, do we?
This is fantastic. This is very, very good.
I hope this is rolling and you got that on camera.
Shout out Red Bull.
What a way to start the pod. That is
fantastic.
That's not even a hashtag ad. That's just that's organic.
This is free promotion.
Yeah, that's
this
just
is
hashtag
incredible. Wow.
Welcome back to the Nearly Men. As you can see, we've got Lyés here today.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Red Bull studio. I've added some football shirts to add a sprinkle of personalisation. What do you think?
Yeah. Culture. Yeah.
Do you like that one?
Of course, man.
Very random one.
Did you think Luca was coming today? Is that
I actually used that on Luca in a guest the player. We had to bring our own shirts in.
So who's on the back of this?
Camuzzo. Yeah. He's a centre back who plays for Fiorentina. I used to work with his sister.
Okay.
So she gave me like a bunch of stash when I left my job.
Did he get it, Camuzzo?
Yeah, he did.
He's tapped, man. Seriously.
He gave me Illing Jr., the West Brom winger. I was like...
I seen that one, though. You got it right at the end, no?
He like, gave it to me.
Yeah, well, those are tough ones, bro, honestly. But Lucas tapped, man.
Yeah, we're here to talk about Man United in shocking news. Before we get into that, we open every podcast with the same question. What is your favourite football match that you have watched that ultimately meant nothing?
There's a few, to be honest with you. I think, honestly, when you asked me this question, the more recent games came to mind just because it's like so. Like, for me, honestly, that Barca-Inter tie last season, Barca didn't win the Champions League, Inter lost in the final. But I feel like in this era where it might be nostalgia, but I sometimes watch games and I get bored, honestly, because I'm like, where are the players that really excite me? The players that like I really want to pay price of admission for. I feel like there's not as many players that I personally love watching anymore. But that tie, watching what Yamal did for 180 minutes or more because of extra time, that was special. Yeah. So for me, that was the first game that came to mind. But when I actually thought about it deeper, there's a few Man United games, obviously. Like last season, the Maguire winner against Lyon. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the craziest games I think I've ever seen. Yeah. And ultimately, it led to absolutely nothing. And if you actually watch that game back, bro, the fact that we were even in danger of losing that game is crazy. Lyon went down to 10 men at Old Trafford and then scored 2 goals against us. Like, when you actually look back at that game and remove the emotion from it, it's like, wow, that was almost the biggest catastrophe ever. But I think the best game or my favorite game I watched that led to absolutely nothing was Man United 4, Man City 3 when Michael Owen scored the winner in the last minute.
That was peak Fergie time. Yeah. I remember that was a robbery.
Honestly, I think they gave us like 10 extra minutes. Honestly, it was like 98. All I can remember from that game at the end is Mark Hughes just like going to the official like point, and I'm like, oh, you don't have the same watch as Fergie, man. Like ours works a little different, man. But that game, right? It's the first game Carlos Tevez came back, right? Yeah. And Tevez actually came back, and you can see this video at the start of the game. He comes out expecting like it's gonna be all good. He's coming back to Old Trafford, no problem. I don't think he expected to get booed. Even though he had done the whole welcome to Manchester thing, he walks out and you see him smiling, and then you hear the boos as soon as he walks out, and his face just immediately drops. Like he's like, "Oh shit, I'm public enemy number 1 here." But that's the game where Fergie was calling them noisy neighbors. Yeah, I was gonna ask. It was back and forth, and we went 3-2 up. Fletcher scored 2 goals that game. And now he's our manager, which is crazy. And his kids play for us now. But then the Michael Owen winner at the end. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
gracious.
That was sick. It's good finish as well.
That's probably my favorite game, yeah.
So, Tevez obviously didn't join United permanently. No. But did he want to?
So, yeah, like you said, for anyone who doesn't know, he was owned by like that agency from Kia Draugskin or whatever his name is. Right? Okay. I think he's the one who was running that agency at the time. This is before now an agency could never own the rights for a player, basically. But he was basically just loaning him out to West Ham and then to Man United. So he was with us on a 2-year loan. First year, he won the double Champions League. Part of, for me, the best 3 peak I've ever seen in the Premier League. The second season, a lot of people don't really remember this. He didn't play as much. Berbatov came in that summer. And this whole trio of Ronaldo, Rooney, and Tevez that everyone loves, it was only really 1 season. The next season, Berbatov came in and Fergie really had to play him because he was our record signing. And Tevez was getting into the team here and there, but I don't think he was ever really going to get signed until the end where like Fergie was like, okay, let's try and make this happen. Then I think Glazernomics ended up happening. They wanted $25 million for him. We decided not to go for it. He ended up going to City. But I think he probably wanted to stay. But ultimately, we just didn't play him a lot. And it's crazy because the following season, we sold Ronaldo, we sold Tevez, and we brought in Michael Owen and Valencia. And like this is where you can kind of see the decline of Man United. But I think personally, us losing Tevez is the start of it.
Really?
First of all, letting him go to City is ridiculous, right?
That is a power balance shift,
that's
isn't it?
That's a huge power. No matter where they were in their process, he's one of the best players in the world, and you're letting him go to City for £25 million. I know it's 2009, but that's still, for me, a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And secondly, I just think the way Man United were playing at that period, with Ronaldo, Rooney, and Tevez. That, for me, we're going to talk about DNA, right?
That's
DNA, Man United DNA.
Yeah.
Fast, aggressive. Rooney even goes on to say to this day, that's his favorite teammate he ever played with, Tevez, because they would just do the dirty work for each other.
Yeah, so they're quite similar, aren't they?
He said, that's my favorite player I ever loved playing with. Berbatov, I loved him. Honestly, he's one of the most talented players to ever play for Man United, but it was such a 180 in terms of how United wanted to play. And I don't think Berbatov ever really hit the ground. I know he had that one season he won the Golden Boot.
Yeah.
I think he scored like all his goals in like 7 games or something like that. But it never really felt like a Man United striker. And ultimately, the season he scored 20 goals in the league, he got completely dropped in the Champions League final because at the end of the day, the way United wanted to play under Fergie just didn't really suit him. So I think losing Tevez effectively to prioritize Berbatov is one of the biggest mistakes we made.
When you think of how Man United played under Fergie, that is a good point. Berbatov just really doesn't.
Not at all. Yeah.
I know that's not to say Berbatov's bad. Obviously, he's a brilliantly talented footballer.
One of the most talented strikers I think Man United have ever had.
Yeah, but well, let's ask a question now. What is Man United's identity? What is the DNA that made you fall in love with them back then, and that you think has maybe dissipated since Fergie left, really?
I think DNA is interesting because I think there's a difference between DNA and identity.
Okay.
Right? DNA for me is like the ethos of what the club represents. So for me, Man United's DNA, in fact, it was printed on the inside of our shirt at one point, youth, courage, success. I think that's the DNA of Man United. And I think it's something that every coach has to adhere to, right? Youth, the academy. Even before Fergie in the class of 92, the Busby Babes, Man United's Champions League winning team back in the day, like that's academy players that we're bleeding in and they're leading us to success. Courage is, in my opinion, taking risks, taking chances. For me, not playing 9 defenders is not courage. There's a game I'll always remember, the Makeda game against Aston Villa. People will maybe forget the details of that game, but we took off Tevez from that game to bring on Federico Makeda, who no one knew anything about, 17 years old. That's a risk when we needed to win that game to win the league. And look how that panned out. But that's just one example of thousands in the history of Man United. So that's courage. And then success, winning, right? Like, obviously now we don't have the same players, the same quality that we used to before, but there still has to be a standard of excellence maintained at the club. So for me, youth, courage, success is the DNA of Man United. Now the identity, I think, is a little different because I think identity can change as the years go on.
Okay.
What made Man United successful as a football team in terms of the way we played will probably not be successful in 2026 because football is always evolving and you have to keep up with the times. Like what Arsene Wenger did at Arsenal is different to what Arteta is doing at Arsenal. It's a different identity in terms of how they play. Now the DNA of the club is still the same in terms of the principles they want to adhere by. Just the way they want to go about things, but how you actually execute it can be different. So we won the Champions League in 99 playing 4-4-2. We won the Champions League in 08 playing 4-3-3 with 3 central midfielders. It's different identity, in my opinion, footballing identity, but I think the principles are still the same.
I was going to say, so do you think DNA is more club principles and identity is how you execute those?
Yeah, I think footballing identity, a coach could have his own footballing identity. Like Guardiola has his own footballing identity. Now, there are times where a manager comes in and is so influential that he can almost start shaping the club's identity that way in terms of Guardiola at City. I'm sure City now, the next manager that comes in for Guardiola will be of a similar ilk in terms of how he wants to go about things. They're not going to go and replace Guardiola of Diego Simeone. Similar to, Man United have been chasing that Fergie identity for a long time, but in my opinion, he's kind of one of one, especially with how versatile he is. But I think there are occasions, Barcelona, of course, too, with Cruyff. Everything that's come since Cruyff is of the same kind of mold. But for the most part, I think club identity or footballing identity, that can very easily be changed.
That's really interesting you say that, not to bring everything back to Palace, but obviously speak from experience. That's one thing I think I'm struggling with a bit at the moment with Palace, in that our DNA and our identity, I think, were formed, at least in my life, by Wilfried Zaha.
Yeah.
Which then, when I think of Crystal Palace, I think of him, and obviously he's ex-Man United player, funnily enough. Didn't really work out, but I think of young local talent who are really expressing themselves. And I've said previously that I think Eze perfectly towed the line of Palace identity, but also adhered to modern football, and he worked in the modern game. And that's something I'm struggling with at the moment, is we don't have a Wilfried Zaha, we don't have an Eze, we don't have an Elise, we don't have a Balassi, but not many teams do. Not many teams have a mercurial talent like that.
You guys lucked out for a while with what you had.
I saw someone the other day be like, this is what we deserve for replacing Elise and Eze with Brennan Johnson and Nketiah. And I'm like, well, like, to be fair,
you think you're gonna find another one of those? Like, they're one of one players.
Yeah, it's like we had them two and Zaha on the team at the same time, and Patrick Vieira still played all of them out of position to accommodate Jordan Ayew, which I'll never ever forgive him for. How that man stayed at Palace for so long is an absolute crime. But it's interesting to say how DNA and identity are different. Do you think Ruben Amorim matched Man United's DNA or desired identity?
My honest opinion here. My honest opinion, I've said it on podcasts, I've been on my own videos. I actually think Man United was as I actually think Ruben Amorim was as anti-Man United as you can get.
Really?
In terms of everything he stood for, the way he went about his business, for me, just screamed anti-Man United.
What? So in what way? Like what did he?
Well, let's go back to the youth courage success thing. He didn't stand for any of them. Youth. He never played our academy players. In fact, he threw most of them under the bus. He called out players that aren't even at the club anymore. He literally benched the best academy product we've had for a few years now in Kobe Mainoo for Ugarte. And for me, everything about the guy in terms of the academy, and not even just the academy, but young players in general, which is crazy because at Sporting, he actually had a decent track record of bleeding in youngsters. But at Man United, the guy would do anything but bring on young players. And when they did come on, it's almost like, oh, well, look what happened. Courage for me. Oh my goodness gracious!
Patrick Dorgu right wing.
When you're beating West Ham 1-0 at home, West Ham 0 wins and 11 or something under Nuno, right? And the substitutions you make 1-0 at home with West Ham with a whole half to play. A Man United manager for me in that situation looks at West Ham, looks at Man United, looks at we're playing at Old Trafford and says, okay, let's make this 2, let's make this 3, let's put our foot on their necks and kill them. This guy goes in and brings Lenny Euro for a center back. Like, for me, that's not courage. That's like, let's preserve the result.
Yeah.
The amount of times I would see this guy just make leg-for-leg substitutions in terms of one defender on for the other, or even bringing on another defender to hold on to what you have rather than go for the kill, screamed anti-Man United. And especially the last game, people will say, well, look who we had on the bench. The guy played 9 defensive players against Leeds.
I know.
And that's not even an exaggeration. 9 defensive players against Leeds United. That's for me anti-Man United.
The ironic thing about that is, so I was actually at Leeds Man United for like a work thing. I was sat in the press box and I was surrounded by Man United journalists, and I was reading the guy's match report next to me while he was writing it because I was like, I just want to see what United fans have to say about this. And obviously Leeds go 1-0 up. Amorim brings Xerxes on straight away,
and straight away
you score. And the guy was like, how has it taken him this long to realise that if you're proactive, you will get things out of it? And this is exactly what Man United have been screaming for. But then ultimately he got sacked anyway. The writing was on the wall before that game, right?
I think so, yeah.
Do you, can you read into that sub at all, do you think? Do you think he did that to...
The Xerxes substitution?
Yeah, or do you think that was just an in-game tactical change?
I think that's just who he is. For me, he's a very reactive manager. He's a very reactionary manager, and I think he came into a game plan looking not to lose. That's the way I look at Ruben Amorim. He looks at how to defend with what he's got rather than attack the opposition's weaknesses. Again, for me, anti-Man United. And there's no problem with being pragmatic. Ferguson was pragmatic throughout his Man United years, but I can't accept the fact that we're going to teams that are this low in the table. Like, with all due respect to Leeds and to Wolves, I understand the Premier League in terms of quality throughout is probably as high as it's been in a few years now, but I really struggle with that mentality. I really do. And look, I was watching Man United against Leeds. There's a corner that Leeds get, and we start breaking for a counterattack. And I'm looking on the ball. Ugarte's leading the counterattack. On his right is Dorgu. On his left is Diogo Dalot. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, what are we doing here, guys? Like,
yeah, and that's not. I know you got a couple of players missing, but
Xerxes,
only a couple of players.
I don't even love Xerxes like that. I think he's okay, to be honest with you. There's no way you can sell me that Dorgu playing right attacking midfield is better than Xerxes. And it showed when Xerxes got the ball in an attacking position and executed the pass. Dorgu probably doesn't. And that's no discredit to Dorgu. He's just a defender.
He's a left back.
He's a left back.
Yeah.
Like, he's not better at attacking than Xerxes.
No. It was a weird, but very fitting way, I think, for Amorim to end his tenure.
I think so. Yeah. I think that performance right there
summed it up.
And everything. Yeah, that sums up Ruben Amorim.
I was also at the end of the game. I thought that's a decent point for United. I think, and then I was like,
wow.
and I was like, the fact I genuinely believe that is like, Jesus Christ.
No, I felt the same way. I was like, yeah, honestly, on the basis of the game,
you take that.
I think we got away. Like, towards the end of the game, Leeds are pushing for the winner, not us.
Yeah.
Then that's where I'm just like, wow. Like, when I'm actually sitting down and accepting that this is where we're at, we have a major problem.
Do you think, Amorim moaned about this publicly, do you think the fact that United want a head coach and not a manager means that their input into your identity can only go so far? Do you think you could have the perfect coach in, but really it needs to be a whole club strategy in terms of, I think youth courage success is a good thing to to outline what.
Yeah. That's like the if you're looking at it like a tree or whatever, that's like at the very top, and everything kind of falls into that. And by the way, you can hire coaches that they're like, again, success or courage. What does that look like? You can attack in numerous different ways. So it doesn't have to be like everyone has to play 4-4-2 or whatever, but you have to be a brave manager. But on the topic of the head coach manager thing, I found his comments so hilarious to me because I really read a lot about Man United. I pay attention. I listen to everything. When Ineos came in, a big talking point about them and a big reason why people were so high on them was under Erik ten Hag in particular, but also under different managers, people were complaining that the Man United manager had too much to do, right? People were saying, Erik ten Hag can't be blamed on his transfers because he shouldn't even be responsible for them. That should be a sporting director. He should just be focused on coaching the team. A lot of people gave ten Hag a lot of credit for that. Like, he needs more help. And Ineos coming in, they were very blunt from the start saying, we are going to decide how the club plays from top all the way to the academy. The manager just has to kind of match that and implement that into the first team. But he's the head coach. I think Erik ten Hag might have even gotten his role changed the summer Ineos came in. So that was very well documented. Anyone now coming out pretending like Amorim was stabbed in the back and lied to about his role, you're not paying attention, to be honest with you. And then if you want to even go further, there's literal articles, Man United announcing Amorim as the new head coach of Man United. So that kind of killed me. But I was at Ornstein recently, right? A little I can't lie. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a big fan of David Ornstein.
Dave.
Yeah, you know. Amazing guy, by the way, David Ornstein. But it's probably coming out on Sky soon. I asked him about that actually. Like, how does that look in terms of an elite manager now coming to a club like Man United or Chelsea, for example, where Maresca also had issues with that title and how much responsibility he had? Can you see an elite manager coming into that kind of club and accepting the constraints on his job now that he is just in charge of the team, right? And Mourinho, I think, even came out recently and said the biggest change for me in management these days is that you're no longer a manager. You are effectively just told to coach the team. Like, that's something he said I struggle a lot with. And David Ornstein said, yeah, that's fair, but he also thinks it's a bit overstated in terms of naturally it's important that your head coach gets along with your sporting director. Like, that's just the nature of the game now. And in fact, if you guys do have a good relationship, you guys will more likely than not see eye to eye on a lot of things anyways, so that the signings that they're making aren't like complete 180s from what you want. Like, more likely than not, the signings that they want to make for you probably fit what you want to do anyways.
They've hired you for that reason. I read that Amorim I read the Athletic long read about Inside when Amorim's left outside. Those articles are just, they hit like crack when they get released. But they said that like, Amorim was invited to like executive meetings. Like, he was treated as a senior member. So like, to pretend, as you said, that he wasn't aware what he was getting into or that he was being, neglected is probably not not true.
But for me,
But you're definitely right in that, like, I think the difficult thing with it, and it does apply to Chelsea as well, is that I think when you have new ownership in and new people running the club, a manager probably thinks, why should I trust what these guys think when I'm the one who has been in football?
Especially, like, let's take Thomas Tuchel for an example, right? This is a prestigious manager. He's been coaching the game for over a decade. He's coached at the biggest clubs. He's won the biggest honors. Why, if I'm Thomas Tuchel, am I now going to go to Clear Lake or Chelsea, for example, and work under Winstanley and Ekbali, who are either not footballing men or their highest level of experience is Brighton. But then I guess that's where you have to find the right guy. For example, Rustin, you're at Chelsea. Let's see how he does. I feel it might be a step too early for him. But he's worked with all of these guys before. He probably has a good rapport with a lot of the guys he worked with at Brighton. So it should make it a bit of an easier gelling together than, for example, Maresca was.
This episode is sponsored by Hill Coaching Company.
Feeling stuck, bored, or quietly running on empty? Oliver Hill is a UK-based business coach guiding leaders, founders, and entrepreneurs to intentional happiness, wealth, and legacy.
The work is direct and challenging. Honest conversations exposing the self-sabotage and breaking down the comfort zones that no longer serve you.
The result? Clearer decisions, stronger relationships, genuine happiness, and success that feels enjoyable.
Find out more at hillcoachingcompany.co.uk.
Do you think that way of approaching things has a ceiling? Because when you look at the teams who are outside the big six who do well, like, I mean, Villa's actually not maybe the best example because they give Emery all the power.
Emery runs the club probably.
But like, I look at Brighton, Brentford, Palace, who do well relatively. But like, they have a very set structure in place, and they kind of have a track record. And if you're going to those clubs, you know that you're going to have to adhere to how they want to do things. But do you think that an owner or a sporting director has enough knowledge and impetus to lead a club to like a Champions League or to a Premier League? Because like you look at City, I know City kind of have a bit of a mesh, don't they?
It's interesting because Ornstein brought up City as a good example. Guardiola and Cheeky. Obviously, Cheeky's moving on for Hugo Vienna, but he said it's a little. He's right. It's a little unique with those two because they have such a long-standing history. Even at Barcelona, as players, they and he says they always used to argue and fight, but like that is like almost brothers. But I think a good example is Arsenal, right?
Yeah.
Arteta works alongside a sporting director, and he has a lot of power at the club, given also that he's earned a lot of that as well too. But him and Edu, whether you loved all of Edu's signings or not, they worked pretty well together. And now obviously he's got Andrea Berta. So
Berta's doing
I think it really just depends what the ambitions of the board and the owners really are. With Arsenal, I think it's very clear that they are looking to get over the hump. They're looking to dominate every competition they get into. I think with Chelsea, and we're going to see with United, I guess, but Chelsea in particular, I think that is where there's inevitably a cap because their whole like in my eyes, I know Carragher called them, what was it? Neville called them the $1 billion bottle jobs. I think that was harsh, but for me, they're the $1 billion Brighton. That's the way I look at them in terms of they just do what Brighton do on a much bigger scale. But that methodology of going after young players that have the potential in a few years to become great players, but also probably have the potential to just be flipped in a few years, I think you're playing Russian roulette there. And the fact that of the signings they've made in the last few years, how many of them can you consider have developed into world-class players? Well, you're looking at Cucurella, Caicedo, Cole Palmer.
Well, it's funny you say that. I did a video yesterday saying the same thing. Like how many players at Chelsea since the ownership took over can you say have benefited from Chelsea's owners? Like how many have gone there and surpassed what they could or should have achieved? I said you could argue Palmer. I would hear Palmer because no one expected him to be as good as he is.
But Palmer I think is almost a fluke, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I don't think they thought Palmer was.
Oh no.
I think he just ended up being way. And anyone who says, well, you gotta give him credit, I don't, because look at the amount of players that they have bought and haven't become Palmer. Yeah,
Cucurella is probably another one where I think and Caicedo, and I said Caicedo was brilliant at Brighton, and it's hard to argue that he's done anything more at Chelsea than he could have done somewhere else.
But I think they need to make more signings like that, though. The amount of money that they spend, the amount of money they spend, they should have a world-class 11 in every single position, plus probably a few bench players. And when you look at that, when you look at what they do have, it's like it's a little underwhelming, to be honest with you. And I think Chelsea fans are starting to look at it in the same way too. Mostly because now managers are leaving and they haven't won the Premier League or gotten even close to it.
No, they're miles off.
Yeah, it's just you look at it, it's like that's what $1 billion gets you.
Yeah, it's a different. You're right. It's different expectations. Like Chelsea, I mean, you're right. They are the billion dollar, to use your phrase, $1 billion Brighton.
Brighton. There you go.
Really good, the £1 billion Brighton, but like that doesn't work at a big team. You have to. Brighton's goal is relative to what they're trying to do, and I think
100%,
and like this is why I find Palace are quite in a weird place with that, because last season, sorry, we like,
I know last season feels like yesterday.
It does, man. I relive it every day. It like. We were perfectly in between, like we'd done the hard yards of raising youth, and they were all kind of peaking. We had and everything just like came together at once. But it's not a sustainable way of winning trophies. You have to like reset and go again and go again. And you're right, you got to be serious. Like I think United summer actually was probably the most serious they've had in. Like
I think it's a good window.
Cunha
to be
and Buemo,
honest.
I think Cunha is exactly the kind of player that United have like lacked over. Where it's just like even against Leeds, he's just like, give me the ball.
Yeah,
I'll score the equaliser.
I think
I'll do this.
Cunha is a very good player, and he's got a bit of the Bruno in terms of like, He's a little bit of a bastard. He likes exactly. He accepts responsibility. He's not afraid of the moment. One thing with Cunha right now, he doesn't pass the ball a lot. Honestly, I feel like every time he gets the ball, he wants to just run up players and shoot.
He kept flicking over people's heads against Leeds. I was like, hey,
he's obviously a very talented player, but I'm like, you got 10 other. I know 9 of them are defenders, but you do have other teammates. You know what I mean?
So who is the best manager to execute the youth courage success? I think we should talk about Oliver Glasner first and foremost,
go
because
ahead.
He was definitely
Sell me on him, man, honestly, because I'm being asked on a different show I'm doing, like, name your 5 candidates for Man United. He's not on my top 5 right now.
I don't think he should be on your top 5. So to be honest, when the news came out that Amorim had been sacked, I was worried straight away. And then the news came out that you were waiting till the summer. That worried me even more, because obviously it's well documented his contract runs out in June. But if you look at what went wrong with Amorim at United, Amorim supposedly at least wanted more say in how things were being run. There were gripes over his system and whether the squad was built for it. You said that you weren't like courageous enough. No. You didn't play attacking enough football. And the youth thing, like Amorim didn't give a chance to youth. I don't see Glasner being a clear upgrade or even a change, possibly, in any of those circumstances. Courage is different, maybe, because obviously Palace are never going to play the same way United do.
Naturally.
And when you have better players, when we had Elise, when we had Eze, when we had Mateta at his best, and we were playing once a week, like we played, as Man United found out to their detriment, we played brilliant football. Like we was blowing teams away the whole time. But since then, we have got more negative. We play deeper. And I think having Sarr instead of Elise is a big reason that happened, because obviously they're entirely different players.
Yeah.
Youth-wise, there's been quite a lot of gripes, I think, with Palace fans about how we've used youth. There's players like Roman Esse, who's just gone on loan to Coventry, who is clearly really talented.
Yeah. He went on. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, he's gone to Coventry.
Just this window.
Yeah, just like today.
Wow.
But like he's maybe not as good off the ball as he could be, and so Glasner doesn't like him. He's a good manager, Glasner, and he has succeeded everywhere he's been. He was brilliant at Wolfsburg, brilliant at Frankfurt, and obviously been Palace's best ever manager. People talk a lot about scaling up. I don't think Glasner would scale up, personally.
I kind of have that same reservation, to be honest with you. I respect what Glasner has done tremendously well. And I actually think this whole three at the back thing with him, I feel like it's a... I swear he's played different systems at different clubs, right?
But that's the weird thing. So he says his favourite system is 4-4-2.
That's what he told Joe Thomas. Joe Thomason told me that as well, too. And I was trying to find the interview. I couldn't find it, but he told me the same exact thing.
But then the weird thing is, and maybe this is just how the team have been coached, because we've played the same system since he joined, but like right now we have no Daniel Munoz, who is
He's the most important
to how we play.
I agree.
But rather than going to a 4 at the back where we have Klein, who is he's not a great right back, but he's a right back. Mitchell can do either. We've got Mateta, we've got Uche, who can play up front too. I'm just like, why have we not? Even like Brennan Johnson now. Brennan Johnson can play in the front too. I'm like, why are you still playing a system that is allegedly not even your favourite one when it's not actually working?
Yeah.
So I find it a bit odd. But I was looking today at like the other candidates that have been spoken about as ones that contracts expire in the summer. You mentioned Tuchel already. Nagelsmann is another one.
Yeah.
I now am less worried because I'm like, United will be going for one of them. Do you think?
There's a lot of names on this short list that Man United keep getting linked to, right? Like obviously it's journal talk, so take it with a pinch of salt, I guess. But there's a lot of names. Yeah. And like I'm not even sure where to look. Like I'll just throw you a few: De Zerbi, Glasner, Iraola, Tuchel, Nagelsmann. There's so many, and I'm just like,
but they're different.
They're all different. That's what I'm saying. Like Tuchel and Iraola, like that's completely opposite sides of the coin. Yeah.
Who do you think, tactically at least, is the best DNA fit at United?
DNA fit is. I was going to say the best manager on the list is Tuchel. Right?
Yeah,
like
100%,
objectively, he is the most prestigious. He's the most experienced. He's worked at big clubs,
and I'd say he's pretty unlikely to stay at England beyond the
I
World
would
Cup.
say unless he wins the World Cup, and even then,
I mean, that
would be a crazy way to just bow out. Like, yeah, okay.
I think he would be.
I feel like if you guys lose the World Cup, it's like a lot of attention is going to go on him, unfortunately, because of the fact that he's not English as well, too. Yeah. I think that's inevitably going to be a talking point, and I don't see him lasting past the World Cup. So, in a way, I guess he's the most natural fit if Man United want to just, like, get competitive really, really quickly.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, the DNA that I'm talking about, right? Like, I really like Iraola, but I feel like this year has taken a huge hit on his reputation. Now, granted, he's lost a lot of players.
Yeah.
You know, he hasn't won his last 11 games.
Oh, I know. Bournemouth have been terrible, but I'm not sure it's affected his stock that much.
But you know what it is? When I look at him, I'm like, if something, obviously, again, scalability, and we have different players, and he has lost a lot of players this season. But I'm like, I also look. I'm gonna move this to a different point, to be honest, because when I look at Iraola's style, it's very exciting. I love watching his teams play as a neutral. They score goals, they attack, they're brave, but also they burn out very, very quickly. And in fact, I'm actually surprised this season they burn out as quickly as they have, because traditionally, the last 3-4 weeks of the season is where the team is just running on fumes because of how high intensity they do tend to play. So for me, that's like a bit of like, your team really has to be drilled well, and you're probably going to need it. You're definitely going to need a preseason, which is why I didn't want him coming in midway through the season. And then on top of that, just if Man United ever go 11 games without a win, or even like 6 games without a win, we're going to be calling for your head, because it's at Bournemouth. It's like
different pressure.
Yeah. So exactly, is he ready to make that next step up? But I really like what he stands for. It's just like, is it a little naive to think that can happen at United?
It's also like, it shows a lack of problem solving as well. Like it's one of those where it's great you have a system, and I agree. When Bournemouth came to Palace earlier this season, they were fantastic to watch. But football is results driven.
Yeah.
Bournemouth were 2-0 up and 3-2 up in that game, and they didn't win. And if they had just sat in when they went 2-0 up, there is no way we would have got anything from that game.
And I think
no
if you look
way.
at all of the results in this 11-game run, I would probably reckon they've been competitive in 90% of them.
The
games
100%.
are not getting blown out, but
yeah. It's difficult. You're right. Like, I was thinking, maybe this is a bad example. I was thinking about on the way here about Ange Postecoglou and about how, like, when things at Spurs were really good,
it was amazing.
Like, they were fantastic to watch, but like when you go at other places, you've got to learn how to adapt. And
which is a big issue that Amorim has kind of had.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, 100%. I mean, Ange is like he's a perfect example of that, right? Like, he's almost like the much lesser version rather of Hansi Flick, right? Like, Hansi Flick is like that on times 10, but in terms of when his football is brilliant, that's my ideal style. I would love my team to play the way Hansi Flick plays, but at the same time too, Barcelona are susceptible to lose 4-1 every single game.
And sometimes you watch them like against Chelsea, and you're just like, what are you doing? But I guess every manager really in history has been like that, probably to an extent. You just don't remember it.
Everyone's got. No one's perfect.
Yeah,
I mean, there's some that are very damn near perfect, but no one is realistically perfect. You know, a name that I keep going back and forth about, but like ultimately, I'm like, he would never work here. Is De Zerbi, man?
Yeah,
his football is so good.
At Brighton, they were. Yeah,
he is a very good manager. Like, honestly, there's no question about it. He's a very good coach.
Yeah,
I mean, the way Guardiola talks about him, like, so many people were taking inspiration from his build-up style at Brighton. He's objectively a very fascinating tactician. Mm-hmm. But then also, now you got to, again, look at the ownership and look at the board.
Yeah, well, he fell out of Brighton.
He's the most volatile man in football, bar Conte. Like, the guy just feels like a ticking time bomb. Even at Marseille, I swear he threatened to quit, like, 3 months into the season.
And also he was like scrapping the players in training.
Bro, he's a madman. But at the same time, too, I'm like, that's enticing. It's a little intriguing. It's like
him and Cunha would either be like get on like a house of fire or fall out like that. But yeah, he fell out with Brighton's owners over the way they did things. It's like, mate, if you're like talk about knowing what you're signing up for, you get the Brighton job, you know how it's going to work, and you also know it's going to be successful. Mm-hmm. Like, I think if you go to Brighton and fall out with the owners, then that's it. That's on you. Do you know what I mean? And he's not going to go to United and have a say. But I think tactically you're right. What about Xavi?
You see, Xavi he's uncertainty. There's so many uncertainties, but he's a big uncertainty for me because
he's a risk. He's a
big risk because I just think he's a bit of an unknown quantity, right? Like, what he did at Barcelona is fantastic. I don't think you can sleep on the fact that under Ronald Koeman before him, they were an absolute mess. They were lingering in mid-table. He came in and immediately there was an uptick in form. They went in his first 6 months to the Bernabeu and beat Real Madrid 4-0. The year they won the Champions League, he won a league title with them. But again, it's a little concerning too that Hansi Flick came in and immediately like elevated that project by 10.
Yeah.
And yes, he has Yamal, which helps a lot as well too. But it's like, damn, that's kind of the level. I almost look at Xavi's time at Barca. Maybe I'm uneducated on the topic because I don't watch as much Barca as other people, but I liken it a bit to when Ollie came to us.
Yeah.
These guys know the club inside out.
Yeah.
Like, they know the ingoings, they know everything, how the club is run, they know the dinner ladies, they know the receptionists, they know everything about the club. And I think them coming into that kind of situation is more like, I don't know if they could replicate that at a different club, for example. Right? And because Xavi hasn't even been to a different club in Europe, I almost wonder, like, did you do that because it's Barcelona? Yeah. Could you do that at a different club? Like you look at Ollie, for example. Everywhere he's been outside of Man United, it hasn't really worked out. But Man United just felt like it's his club. He understands it more than anybody.
We got to talk about Ollie, who is looking like he's going to be the interim at this point. We've scrapped over Ollie is a massive exaggeration, but I did a video about Ollie about a year ago. Yeah, we actually had a crazy online fight, guys. It was beef. I made a diss track and everything. But I'm a big Ole Gunnar Solskjaer guy because I love a vibes manager. Yeah, like I like Frank Lampard.
Oh, and he is vibes.
And yeah, his first time at United, I said that he was disrespected a bit because there's that clip that goes round. The video I made was that this clip that goes round when you played Pep's City at the Etihad in the 1920 season, and I don't think I've ever seen a team tear a Pep side apart like that. It's like United were just all over them for the first half an hour, like it was insane. But as a United fan, you definitely do know better than me. You said that you said his time was a bit overrated. Where do you sit on him as an interim coach? Because it is different, right?
It's very different. I mean, first and foremost, Ollie might be the GOAT caretaker manager ever because that 19-game run, I think he had a 74% win rate. Like, it was ridiculous. I think he lost 3 games out of 19, went to the Parc des Princes, beat PSG.
That was
bro. He was ridiculous. Like, and people have to remember as well too what he took over. Like, it was a good team under Mourinho, but it was a team on their ass. Like, they had completely fell out with him. I've never seen that low of an atmosphere. Like now, Amorim has left. I don't look at it as like toxic at all.
No.
Like I don't think the players are like depressed or whatever. They were genuinely depressed under Jose Mourinho. Like
That's
don't.
the Jose effect, mate.
Honestly,
he's a toxic
and Ollie
ex-boyfriend.
just came in and just uplifted everything. Like people were smiling again. We were the first game he coached 5-1 against Cardiff.
Yeah, I remember that, mate. I remember this so well.
Honestly,
Jay Lings playing the 10.
It's easy to say now, right, with hindsight, but at the time when Ollie got given the full time, no one complained about it because those 19 games were unlike anything I've seen before. Like that is without a doubt the most impressive caretaker role, no matter how long it was, that I've ever seen. It was ridiculous, right?
He had to get the permanent job really after
yeah,
that,
I mean,
didn't he?
it's hard. Like it's easy to say in hindsight, given how it worked out, but how do you not give someone the job when they do that well, right? Like if Enrique comes to the United and does that, we're putting this guy next to Fergie, man. It was crazy what he was doing. Ultimately, the season didn't pan out how we wanted because after that everything went downhill. But when I look at all these time, right? The reason I said it's a little over-exaggerated is because when you look at games like that game against City, you can see the highs. And there were numerous games against the top sides in the Premier League that we beat City, I think, 3 or 4 times when Pep was there. We beat Liverpool in the FA Cup. We drew them at Anfield. We had a really good record against Chelsea. Lampard never beat Ollie. And then I think we had a good record against Tuchel as well, too. We were a good team against the big sides. Ollie just knew how to set this team up against the best in England.
Yeah.
The problem with Ollie, I felt, and the reason why I never really felt he would be able to get over the hump and win a Premier League title, was that when we came up against the smaller teams, I felt that he struggled to coach a team that could break against deep blocks. Because a lot of his football was really big, and I know people will say 55% possession, but I think if you look back at a lot of those games, we were really organized. We would always play Fred and McTominay, right?
Yeah.
Have runners in midfield, sit in our nice little mid block, and then break. And when you have Rashford, Martial, Lingard, Bruno feeding them in behind for a while, he who must not be named, we won't even talk about him.
Yeah.
Pogba on the left, like those are and yeah, he put them all together, so he deserves massive credit. But that worked wonders against those sides. But against teams now who are literally camped in their box because they know United can't break them down because they're not a good side in possession, I think United more often than not flattered to deceive. And then you look at the European runs. I mean, the Champions League coming third in that group when it was so easily in our hands. The Europa League final against Villarreal. And in fact, every cup competition, it felt like we were limited because in a one-off game, Ollie would more often than not get outthought by the opposition manager. So ultimately, it ended up not working out because of the Ronaldo thing at the end as well, too. But then I look back at it sometimes and I'm like, as much as I think his time it's gotten better with revisionism, I look at it now and I'm like, oh my goodness, I would kill for that bet. I would actually. I didn't know it at the time, but I'm like, when I look at what's come after, I would kill to have that back.
It's hard to say because, like, it's so difficult to judge a manager, especially in the United world where there's so much going on behind the scenes and stuff. And he undoubtedly had really good players.
Yeah.
Like, you look at like. I saw a clip earlier, like a little montage of his last season, and like Cavani's up front, or second last season, Cavani's up front, and you're like, that, United don't have players like that now.
Cavani, again, this is where I think you got to give him credit because Cavani was on the way out at PSG. They were basically discarding him. We got him on a free. People were questioning, like, does he still got it? Ollie kind of gave him a bit of like a boost, to be honest with you. Bruno Fernandes, he's the one that brought him to the club. So he definitely built a lot of that squad, and also like Rashford and Pogba and Martial under Mourinho, they were dead in the water towards the end, right? They didn't want to play for the guy. So I think he deserves credit in that, but it's just like I always felt there was a ceiling to what he could actually achieve. The problem is we're not even close to that ceiling. I would dream of that. At least then I had aspirations of one day winning the league. Now, just give me entertaining football and get me back in the top 4. That's all I'm asking for now.
One thing that always makes me laugh about Ollie's time, and it's one of my pet hates when managers do this, when they look back on it and they're like, yeah, I wanted to sign Haaland and Bellingham. And I'm like, of course you did, mate. Like, they were the best players in the world.
To be fair to him, though, they were at Birmingham and Dortmund. And Molde even, actually.
Molde,
so to be fair, yeah, he wanted Declan Rice as well, too. No shit, right?
Yeah,
but like,
I wanted all the best players in the world. Yeah, funny that. Before we talk about how, I want to ask you how you think Ollie will set Man United up now. Yeah. But we got to talk about, you mentioned Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Did Ronaldo ruin Ollie's final season at United?
Yes and no. I think Ollie's time was probably coming to an end anyways, because I think teams were starting to find out how to play against us. But I think Ronaldo's arrival accelerated the process because, again, I say mid-block, but there were a lot of games as well too where we were pressing high. Like a lot of our game was based on intensity and energy, right? Whether that was Cavani up front, whether that was Rashford, and Rashford at that point I think was still pressing a little bit, right? But we had a lot of energy in our team. A lot of it was based on quick, explosive counters and winning the ball up high and scoring goals that way. Ronaldo is, I mean, for some people the greatest player of all time, but he is effectively, especially at that point in his career, a goal poacher, right? He's a goal hanger, and he's the best at doing that. But he's traditionally always been a bit of a liability off the ball. He doesn't really have an interest in defending, which is fair enough. He scores 50 goals a season. But I think for what that team needed, he was everything that we didn't need, to be honest with you, right? I feel for him a little bit because he didn't. It's not his fault at the end of the day. They bought him, right? He was headed to City. So like, what do you do in that situation? Do you let him go to City? I would make that signing 1,000,000 times over 1,000,000 instead of watching him play for City. But I think it was just a terrible match, to be honest with you. So he did kind of end things, but I think it was already heading that way anyways.
That game against Spurs away where you played Cavani and Ronaldo front two,
and
won 3-0. That's like a core memory for me. I don't know why. I've been watching that, just being like, wow, that's sick.
I mean, look. I know, because I know a lot of Ronaldo fans will probably see what I'm saying and be like, how dare you, he scored 18, 19 goals. First and foremost, I think when you break down when he was scoring those goals, like, I think
against Norwich.
There was a period from like November to like February or March where he had like 1 goal. Like that period where we were trying to make top 4, he just stopped scoring. And he bagged a lot towards the end of the season and at the start. So, and in the Champions League as well too. So I think there is some context to how he was playing. Ronaldo. He's gonna score goals wherever he goes. But I think if you look at the benefit the goals have to the team and his play, I think you got to take that into account. And I think it just didn't suit the way we wanted to do.
So assuming Ollie takes over, which I think he is fairly confident.
Dual manager of Carrick, I'm hearing that.
Crazy, man. Did you see that Darren Fletcher said that he rang Fergie to ask for his approval to take over the club? And they were like, "Have you spoken to Amorim?" He was like, "Nah." Why would I do that?
Yeah, he's like, understandably, to be fair.
Yeah, it's like, bro, the hold that Alex Ferguson has on United is mental.
But do you remember, there was a report back in the day. I know, there's not even a report, it's confirmed. Ollie would not park in the manager's parking spot at Man United because of too much respect for Sir Alex.
Is that not just like really, really weird?
Yes and no, right? It is weird. Like, he hasn't been the coach now for 13 years going on now. But at the same time, too, when you actually hear the way they talk about him and you hear the stories about Ferguson, they're still scared shitless of him. I'm convinced. Like, he ruled by fear, by respect as well, too. But a lot of it was fear as well. I mean, there's this clip as well, too, from Rio's podcast with Michael Carrick recently where Sir Alex walks in and they just stop talking. They're like, "How are you, boss? Getting a coffee, boss, blah, blah, blah." And then later in the podcast, his phone goes off. And, like, they were saying, like, whose phone is that? Can't be the boss. And then they see him on the phone. He's like, we'll just let him finish up, basically. Like, they still fear and respect him so much. But that's the Fergie effect. I mean, especially for guys like Darren Fletcher, with all due respect, he was a good player, but he got elevated to levels. He's got 7 Premier League titles under his belt. That's Sir Alex, bro. Like, a lot of guys owe careers to Sir Alex. Full respect to Fletcher, but yeah, man, that's the boss.
It's quite funny that, like, that persona that he had, because I listened to a pod recently about Jose Mourinho. Have you ever listened to Heroes and Humans in Football?
Yes.
It's quite old now, but amazing series if you haven't listened to it, listeners.
Facts.
But they did one about Jose Mourinho, and they speak about like the hold he had on players.
Those Chelsea guys. Oh my God.
He's like texting Lampard like 3 a.m, being like, "Man, like, you're my best player," and Lampard's like, "Oh, thanks so much,
I think Steve Sidwell was the one who said when he got fired the first go round, the Chelsea players were crying. Like,
they were like, and they said that like Fabregas still to this day is like, "We let Jose down in this," and he's like basically like punching himself in the face, talking about how they let him down.
I think Chelsea.
It's so mad that
Mourinho and Fergie, they had this effect of like, they just made it feel like it's us against the world, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, like it's everyone is against us, so we have to be united, basically.
Yeah.
Like I honestly think, and that's probably why Jose towards the end maybe got a little bit outdated, because again, he was also so intense and so tough that maybe a lot of modern day players they can't hack that style of management, right? You can talk to, I don't know, Lampard and Cambiasso one way. You can't talk to Dele Alli the same way, right? People receive it completely different, right? But I feel like they just made it such like a stronghold. Like, no one can break into our walls. This is us against everyone else.
How do you think United are going to set up under Ollie then? If you had to hazard a guess based on the previous tenure, what is? Let's assume everyone's fit.
Yeah.
What's United's best 11?
He always played 4-2-3-1 with us, or 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. It's going to be Lemons in goal. He didn't love Dalot at all. In fact, Dalot went on loan under him. He preferred one. He bought Wan-Bissaka for 55 million, and he was our right back. Yeah. Dalot only really broke through properly under Ranić and Ten Hag. So will he go with Mazraoui? Maybe. I don't know. The thing is, though, I think it's dangerous also to think that way, because Dalot's a different player.
Dalot's evolved.
He loved Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw's a different player than what he was 4 years ago. So probably Dalot or Mazraoui at right back. I would guess Lissandro and one of De Ligt or Maguire. I would probably guess that.
Is Maguire injured?
Funny enough, I think they just announced he's coming back today.
Mate, I'm
Bro, there's certain guys, they're hearing all these back. It's like, hey,
get me back in.
Strap me up, do whatever you gotta do.
I love, mate, Harry Maguire, another one. Why do I just love all these mediocre Man United players? They're just class.
So I think it's gonna be Lissandro and then one of De Ligt or Maguire or Euro. We'll see. Even though Aiden Heaven has been fantastic for us.
Yeah, United actually have quite a lot of good centre-back options.
Well, this
now.
is what happens when you hire a 3 at the back manager. We have about 80 centre backs and 0 wingers. So there you go. So I'm gonna guess it's like that. I'm going to say I think he's going to play Dorgu at left back.
Yeah.
I'll explain why in a bit, right? Even though Luke Shaw used to be his guy, but I think it'll be Dorgu. I think it's going to be a midfield 3 of Casemiro, Kobbie Mainoo, and Bruno Fernandes. I think it'll be those 3. I think it's going to be Cunha on the left, which is why I said Dorgu, because Cunha ain't really a traditional left winger, right? He's going to do his best work inside, so you need someone who's really going to bomb forward. Luke Shaw doesn't cross the halfway line anymore, so I don't think it'll go him. I actually think, this is my prediction, that he'll go Ahmad on the right and Mbeumo up front.
I saw someone say this earlier as well.
I think he's going to go, again, a lot of his play was based on speed and transition. Yeah. And Sesko, everyone has their own opinion on him, but I think Mbeumo, especially now, Ahmad, for me, is undroppable, honestly. Like,
he's killing it at AFCON as well,
I honestly think Ahmad's he's a really good player, man.
Yeah.
I don't think enough people have really seen it because he's played different roles for United. Sometimes he hasn't played at all, but I think he's so talented, man. Honestly, I think there's certain things he does a lot better than Mbeumo, for example. Like Mbeumo, he's probably the more valuable player. His anticipation, his goals, running in behind. But Ahmad on the ball is so good, bro. Yeah. Honestly, I don't think a lot of people understand how talented this kid actually is. So I think you could see potentially something like that. And then, hey, he might play Sesko up front. I might be wrong. He might play Mbeumo on the right. But I would imagine that's probably what he goes for. And to be honest with you, my opinion, I think that suits a lot of our players more than what we were doing before. Yeah,
it's pretty fun. That's a fun sounding.
It sounds exciting. The way I'm saying it sounds probably better than.
I'm seeing like the Lingard, Martial, Rashford link up live in the flesh. It's going to be an interesting rest of the season.
My hope of Ollie as well too is like, because here's the thing, it can go one of two ways. Either succeeds or he doesn't. Right. The fear is it's a different team, it's different players that he's inheriting. He might not have Carrick with him. McKenna and Carrick were reportedly huge influences for how we used to play. Apparently, they were really big in terms of like the tactics of how we played. They might not be there with him, so that's different. So it could. There's no guarantee that it goes as well as the first caretaker job did, right? But on the flip side, I also think Ollie will have been watching us the last 3 or 4 years, right? And he'll probably be thinking to himself, first of all, why the hell did they replace me with Amorim? He probably think this is the guy they replaced me with. I'm sure he's thought that a million times. But also, I would hope as well too. He's probably thought about it as well too. What could I have done differently?
Yeah, I saw someone say earlier that apparently Solskjaer's rewatched every game that he managed.
I'm sure he
at
has.
United and be like, what was I doing wrong?
I don't think that's something that's been said enough. Like Ollie has now been watching Man United as a fan because he watches every single game. But also, he's watching it as like someone who used to coach the team. I'm sure he's asked himself so many times or thought to himself, what could I have done different? Where did it go wrong for me? If I had the chance to do it again, what would I do differently? Yeah. So in a way, again, different players, but this is a second chance at it. So I hope that he comes in and can bring a good style of play that we all can enjoy kind of watching, but also tweak things a little bit that may have gone wrong the first time.
Man, I'm excited for when he's come back. That's my guy. You mentioned also Kieran McKenna, someone we didn't speak about, who I think has been linked a bit. And I read that when they were interviewing for Amorim, they interviewed him and they liked him. Do you think there's any chance of him getting a job
was very liked by Chelsea as well too, if you remember. When
they wanted him, didn't they?
There was
but he's not doing that well at Ipswich now. How are Ipswich doing?
I'm not a big championship watcher, so I won't pretend
they're third. Ipswich are third.
Oh, so they're doing really well.
But so there's, for context, there's in the barbershop I'm in, there's an Ipswich fan there who is not a big fan of McKenna, or wasn't previously, but he's also not a big fan of like that style of football, which I don't think helps. But I guess McKenna might I spoke earlier about Eze towing the line between like modern football and what Palace should be about. Yeah. McKenna maybe like a bit of he's kind of connected to the Alex Ferguson part, but he's also got his own personality as well. If you could hire someone tomorrow, maybe not tomorrow, end of the season, there you go, Lyés, you got the keys, bro. Who do you want?
You know, someone we didn't mention that might actually be available this summer. It's ambitious. Would he even take this job? Luis Enrique reportedly has rejected a new deal at PSG. I mean, that would be the dream, man. Seriously. I think he's one of the best managers in the world. Proven. The style is beautiful. Like PSG play an incredible brand of football.
Also kind of United.
Plays a lot of the young players. Honestly, there's a lot of young players from PSG's academy that have really been given a breakthrough under him. So that's the goal. That's the dream, right? Honestly, like if everything goes perfectly, we hire Enrique. Nagelsmann's always been one that's interested me as well, too. And I actually think his Bayern tenure is a little underrated, to be honest with you. I think he coached them in a period where that dynasty was kind of coming towards an end, and he still won the league, and then Tuchel, it all kind of fell apart after that.
Yeah.
I think he did okay at Bayern, to be honest with you. Plays a good style of play. For me, it's almost like, is he too naive to coach at Man United? Because a lot of the newer managers, I feel, they're very headstrong in what they want to do. And it's like my way or the highway. I mean, Amorim is the prime example, but even like Hertzler at Brighton, like I feel like a lot of the new age managers, like they only view the game in one way. Like it's almost like they've cracked the code and they're just going to go with it until it fails. So that might be my worry, but I don't know. There's a lot of interesting candidates. It's all of them bring their own headache, but Enrique is the dream, I guess.
I'll talk about Enrique in a sec, but didn't Nagelsmann, part of the reason he failed at Bayern was like the politics surrounding it?
I think he fell out massively with, was it Oliver Kahn? He definitely fell out a little bit with one of the board members. I can't remember who it was exactly.
Was it Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, I think? It was one of them.
There's so many of them. In Bayern, it's like...
Yeah. He said that it's kind of like Ajax, actually. We spoke about Ajax on a podcast last year.
How happens it? I can't remember who it was.
They're like political parties as well as football clubs. They're so... I think, and United are kind of similar. I don't think they are as much. But I think the United job is, regardless of how United have done since Fergie left, it's still Man United. It's still the Premier League. It's still a massive opportunity for someone. I don't think it's unrealistic that Enrique or Nagelsmann go, yeah, you know what, I want to come to the Prem. And that's probably the best... Is that the best job to get? I mean, obviously, City... I mean, like, look, we're going through it. City are, City will have who they want, and they probably won't need to do anything about it now. Liverpool...
I think that's really what it comes down to, right? Like, it's similar to players, right? Man United have a big pull still.
Yeah, massively, yeah.
However, if they are now in a fight for a player with City or Arsenal or Liverpool, we will lose that fight. We're still going to, with all due respect to a team like Aston Villa, who I know there's been a lot of talk between Emery and stuff, I still think if a player is being chased by Villa or United, for the most part, I still think United still has enough pull for that.
Definitely.
I think when it comes to now bigger clubs, clubs on similar stature to us that are more successful, we're screwed.
Yeah.
Managers is a little different because clubs are kind of, they're set with one. Arteta, for example, there's no worry that Arsenal's going to go hire Enrique or City. Liverpool's a big one. If Liverpool and United go for the same manager, are we in a position where we can claim that manager over them? That's a bit of a worry. But like you said, I mean, the fact that so many clubs are already kind of secure with who they have does bode well for us, but it really depends on what happens with Slot, I guess.
I think I saw Ornstein, your best mate.
Dave. Ornstein to you, Dave.
Ornstein. Oh, Dave, yeah. I think he said earlier today that the manager market is going to go nuts in the summer, basically.
Say that,
because like there's so many big jobs that are going to become available. So maybe it's a good time for United to be in the market. Final question on United, on Ruben Amorim. What do you think is next for him?
Beats me.
Do you think he could get a Prem job? Do you think Ruben Amorim would work at Crystal Palace, for example?
Would you take him at Crystal Palace?
I think I would.
Fair enough.
I mean, he's just, as I said, he's just Oliver Glasner, but younger and maybe not quite as good.
Emphasis on the latter part. I mean, look, if history is to be believed, he probably won't do well after Man United because most managers actually, after leaving Man United, don't tend to find much success. I know people will look at Mourinho's Conference League of Roma, but objectively, Jose Mourinho, for what he used to be, has been on a downward path since leaving Man United. You look at Van Gaal, you look at Ollie, you look at Ten Hag. Ten Hag took over the director of football job at Twente, right?
Yeah.
Funnily enough, the two most successful managers post Man United are probably Ranić with Austria.
Yeah, he's killing it.
And Moyes 10 years later with West Ham.
Yeah.
It doesn't bode well for Amorim because, and that's why I keep saying I feel like Man United probably get the managerial appointments wrong more often than the players because the players that leave us end up doing amazing. It's the managers that struggle. But I mean, Amorim's still young. He's a very good talker, so I'm sure he'll be able to seduce some director of football into giving him a job. I don't know who's
Steve Parish.
Steve
Parish would love Ruben Amorim. They would vibe so much.
I won't say he will never get a job, right? To even be able to say he's that young and have Man United on your resume now, no matter how he did, is still impressive in a way. So potentially, but I think the next job he takes, he's going to have to look at it in a different way because this idea that he can just go into any job he wants and demand that he plays the style no matter how many games you lose is ludicrous to me.
Yeah. I've got a bit of a theory that there are loads of managers in the world who would be really good mid-table managers. Like, I think so many of them now, I know it's really congested, but like Keith Andrews has Brentford 7th at the time of recording. I think like it's a great time to be a mid-table Premier League manager, but to make the jump up is really difficult. But I think they'll be all teams like Palace, I think, have to do is just hold their arms out and just catch all the managers and players that fall from the top. And you'll do really well.
Ideally, if Glasner leaves tomorrow, who would be the next guy in for you?
I really wanted Liam Rosenior, to be honest. I thought he would have been really good.
That was probably a better transition for him.
Yeah,
I mean, you're never going to say yes to Chelsea, over Chelsea, but like what made sense for his career, I felt like that's the next step.
South London lad as well, like he would have worked really well.
Spy Brighton.
I mean, we'll ignore that. I can see us. I think there's not really a clear best option. I mean, I've seen us linked to Craig Bellamy.
He's doing okay with Wales, though, isn't he?
Yeah, but like, oh my god, like I just don't like Craig Bellamy.
Honestly, that's fair enough.
There's the Getafe guy who
Bordelas.
Who is allegedly like the most like anti-football manager.
You guys are trying to build an army, then. Okay.
But I was like, you know what? That does sound quite fun.
Bro, he's seen like how we joke about like Allardyce and stuff like that. Like he is the final boss of that in La Liga.
Yeah, I think that. I can see us doing that.
Bordelas at Palace. Oh my god.
I think, mate, that's just Prem football. You know what? In a dream world, let's say everything goes how I think it will in the summer.
Yeah.
I would love to get Thomas Frank from Spurs, because I don't think he'll last. I don't think he'll last at Spurs, and I think like he's a great mid-table manager. He's exactly the kind of manager I'm talking about in terms of like, for a team like Palace, he's great.
I'm shocked how badly he's failed. How badly he's gone from at Spurs. I'm honestly shocked.
I just don't think he's just not been able to make this. You could see by the way he's like holding himself and talking. Like I think he's just like been flashbanged basically. He's like, oh my god.
But I just thought like he seemed so just like level-headed at Brentford, excuse me. And I honestly felt like any club he went to, like he'd at least be able to get them a little secure.
Yeah,
it's gone so much worse than I thought.
He's also just like lost the fans. Like Ben and Seb, friends of the show, they hate him.
But you know what? This goes back to our initial conversation about DNA, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is where I guess you can question: do West Ham and Spurs have unrealistic expectations for their DNA? But regardless, the reason why Spurs fans took to Ange more than Thomas Frank is he at least showed you flashes that when the football was working, that's the kind of football Spurs fans want to see.
Yeah.
I think with Spurs fans, they probably look at Thomas Frank and think, even if it eventually works out, this style of play is just not for us. You know what I mean?
I think that actually is a really good way of summing up why I think there's so many good mid-table managers. Because generally, to be a good mid-table team, to basically be a good team outside of the Big Six, and I'm including Newcastle and Villa in this as well, based on Eddie Howe and Emery, is to be like a really pragmatic manager who can be flexible, doesn't have to play a certain way, will get the best out of what they have and make the most of a situation. That is just not what you need to do at a big team. It just isn't. You have to be way more proactive. Whereas at the other 14, like, you need to be reactive. So you can get some of the best reactive managers in the world would manage mid-table Premier League teams, but I don't think they'll be able to make the step up. That group of managers who play like that way but also work at a big club. Like, think of like, I think one example you said of like Tuchel is a good example. Tuchel's just like an unbelievable mid-table Premier League man. That guy.
He's the Messi of Pardews, man.
He literally is. Alan Pardew played brilliant football, actually, mate.
I can't lie, 2011-12 Newcastle.
Yeah, mate.
Oh, okay, yeah.
15-16 Palace.
Pardew wasn't the right example. He's like the Lionel Messi. He's the Sir Alex Ferguson.
Of like Tony Pulis's.
Yeah. Maybe that's Arteta.
Yeah. Roy Hodgson. Yeah, all right, Arteta.
But honestly, what you just said, I think is facts, and it's probably why West Ham are going to get relegated this year.
What do you mean?
In terms of mid-table clubs, reactionary managers probably just work the best, and you have to accept that. And I think that's where West Ham have kind of shot themselves. I think that's where Stoke shot themselves in the foot a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Too. Sometimes you just have to not accept what you are, but I'm not trying to like gaslight West Ham fans here as well into saying, oh, you should have kept Moyes, because I think it was starting to get a little sour.
Yeah, it definitely was.
But I think that his tenure at West Ham was massively like disrespected at times, to be honest.
Well, I think when he left, he
came them in the first time and saved them as well.
Yeah, and then came back again.
Yeah. Be careful what you wish for, I guess.
That was a good chat about Man United. We've not actually spoken about Man United at all.
Man,
that's what it's also the chairs and the settings. It feels very relaxing in here.
100%.
I wanted to speak about Man United in this pod for ages, and we've just never got United fan in. And it was nice to touch on.
You're probably the first podcast, by the way, that hasn't gotten a Man United fan. I feel like that's the recipe for most podcasts.
No, mate, when I was looking at Man United fans, I was like, I don't even know. Like, I feel like in my little TikTok world, there's actually not really many Man United fans who. Yeah, they're all Arsenal fans now. But Ollie's Man United is one of my favourite nearly teams ever, and I've wanted to talk about them on the pod for a while.
Okay.
I'm not leading you down the way of Ollie's United, but the way we close every podcast with our guest is, who is your favourite nearly team of all time? So I said to you that that's basically a team that got close to winning something but didn't. You could kind of interpret how you want, maybe, whether it's potential based or.
Surely Arteta's Arsenal is your favorite nearly team, no?
Go on, man.
It was coming, man. Come on, I had to get one in there.
Hour into the podcast, he gets one in there. Dang! That was actually the first episode of the podcast about Arteta's Arsenal. I can't even respond.
My favorite nearly team in football.
Could be international as well, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I was thinking about it on the way here. Obviously, there's like Leverkusen back in the day, like when they lost like every single final or like last day of the season. But the ones that I watched, there was the Bayern team the year before they won the Champions League, the treble.
When they lost to Chelsea.
Yeah, that season they lost the league to Dortmund, they lost the cup final to Dortmund, and they lost the Champions League final at home to Chelsea.
Damn.
Before the next season winning everything. So in a way, that is the biggest nearly team.
Yeah.
And I actually think that Bayern team, including the one that won the next year, is one of the most underrated teams of the last 25 years.
Really?
I think when you look at that side, Robben and Ribéry, Thomas Muller, Schweinsteiger,
Mario Gomez,
Manuel Neuer. Oh my, bro! I think that team is so slept on. Boateng and Alaba left back. I find Alaba so underrated. Like that team were monsters, and I think in a way as well too. They were probably the first team that killed the tiki-taka movement.
Yeah, I remember watching them. They beat
Barca 7-0 on aggregate. And granted, Messi was injured a little bit, right? But I think that was the first team that kind of took us into this gegenpress and, well, Dortmund with Klopp as well too, right? But like that was the first team for me that I saw on a grand scale kind of start to shift away from everyone was trying to play death by 1,000 passes, and they would just kill you with physicality, aggression, intensity, speed. That wing duo of Ribéry and
I was going to say, that's what defines that team for me. Of like, that was just having two wingers like that is just great to watch. It doesn't matter what level you're at.
10 years, bro.
Yeah.
At the top of their game. I look at them, and we always talk about Real Madrid of the 2010s. We talk about Barcelona. We talk about Man United of the 08, City. I think that team gets massively slept on when we're talking about best teams of that era.
Yeah.
Bro, they were and by the way, even under Guardiola, right? They went to the Champions League semifinals 3 years in a row, and they were only losing to who? Barca, MSN Barca, Real Madrid, who won the Champions League, and then Atletico Madrid, who in that period were really, really good.
Yeah.
I think that team was a joke, man.
That's
in fact, they went what? So I guess they're super nearly men because they went to 3 semifinals in a row and lost to the best team in Europe.
That's funny because most people, when they think of like German nearly teams, they'll go to Dortmund straight away.
Yeah,
You're right, like that. They didn't really fulfill their potential.
They should have won more Champions Leagues.
Yeah.
And I think they were a little unfortunate that they coincided with Ronaldo's Real Madrid and Messi's Barcelona. I think in a different era, they probably sweep a few in Europe.
That losing a Champions League final at home must be
crazy.
the bleakest thing ever. In that way as well. And Chelsea were like, they weren't that good.
No, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. You know, in fact, there's a funny story actually. Robben played the Champions League final. He missed the penalty against Dortmund and against Chelsea in that final, right? A week later, I think it was, they had to play a friendly against the Dutch national team, Bayern and the Dutch national team, because Robben 2 years earlier had gotten injured on like international training or international break for the Netherlands that ended up costing him like into the season for Bayern. So effectively, like they played a friendly to raise money that would eventually go to Bayern to basically repay it. Robben played, I think, one half for Bayern, one half for the Netherlands, and got booed the entire game. And it's funny because actually at the end of that season, he went on to score the winner in the Champions League final. But, bro, that was like a disaster for them. Imagine, you're like losing a Champions League final at home to Chelsea. That is one of the biggest shocks ever.
They also went 1-0 up with like 10 minutes ago, didn't they? Thomas Muller scored, and Chelsea offered nothing.
And they had the penalty,
nothing.
and then I think they even went up in the penalty shootout. It was just wow.
Yeah.
You play that game 1,000 times. That's the only time they win, I think.
That's the best example, I think, maybe in football history of just like, well, as Gary Neville said on the commentary in his very high-pitched voice at the time, it is written in the stars. It's just like, this is just so inevitable that this is going to happen.
That's why, for me, that was the first time I ever looked at football, and I really believe it now. Like, when it's your time, it's your time. And when it's not, it's just not. Like, Chelsea were so close to winning the Champions League so many times in the years prior when that team was actually at their peak, and then they won it with, like, the worst iteration of that team ever. And it's just, when that was their time.
Ryan
that was
Bertrand, left wing.
Yeah.
I mean, again, not to bring it back to Palace, but... Same thing happened with the FA Cup last year. You just knew.
When it's your time, it's your time.
You just knew, this is going to... When Eze scored the goal in the quarterfinal against Fulham, I thought, we're going to win the FA Cup. And we did!
You thought as early as the
I was, because it was just like... It was quarterfinal against Fulham. Fortunately, John's not here, but John, if you're listening... and really cagey game. Fulham were on top, and it was like the game was like this close to slipping away from us. And then Eze scores from 25 yards out. 2 minutes later, we score another 2-0 game over. Same thing against Villa. Go 1-0 up. Eze scores a screamer. We then miss a penalty, and all of a sudden you could just feel the momentum going to Villa, and then we just scored straight away.
Yeah.
And it's like even the final first attack we scored, and it's just like everything was
what
just
a run, man. Seriously.
Oh God, I love how much we talk about this on the podcast. I love it. I want to keep bringing it up.
2016, you know. They couldn't get us done against us.
Mate, 26. Oh my God, I thought when Jason Puncheon scored that goal,
I was shook. When Chris Smalling got red carded, that's when I was shook. That was,
mate, on the last Zach Jalab shoot that we did before, maybe it was 2 ago. They had Mark Clattenburg on there, and a Palace fan was like, "Why did you not play the advantage?" Because I don't know if
you guys threw on goal in that situation.
So in the first yellow that Chris Smalling got, Connor Wickham, he's not through, but he's like beyond the last defender, but out wide. Yeah. Smalling drags him down. To be fair, Man United do basically stop playing, but we go through and score.
And you asked Mark Clattenburg, someone asked Mark Clattenburg.
Yeah, someone else. Why did you?
9 years later, why did you
my
not
God.
call
Mark Clattenburg is hated. Like, I got invited to go on his podcast, and I was like, I don't think I can do it. I think if people see me on a Mark Clattenburg podcast, they'll be like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. He's that hated by Palace.
Oh, mate, despised. Wow. I think also before we wrap the pod up, we talk about the other Zach Jalab shoot that we did on Monday, which should be, I think it's coming out today as we record.
Yeah, at 6.
So
by the way, he stitched me up. He sent me a message recently today saying, Pedri actually was an option. I'm like, oh my goodness.
You got done. But Hakimi actually wasn't, was he? So it was a Team of the Year video. It was you basically, 20 versus 1, Lyés picked his Team of the Year. We went up and debated. Can you believe it? There were 2 Palace players in the nominees. What the hell's going on? And I went up there and I argued for Jean-Philippe Mateta up front.
Admirably so, I might add.
Unsuccessfully, but I tried. So that video should be out now. So.
Yeah, it comes out. Yeah, by this time it should be out.
Yeah, so do go check it out. And also, we were of course on the same team for James Alcott's quiz.
Winning team, by the way. Can we mention that as well?
Yeah,
cool. No point playing if you're not going to win, right?
Of course we can. Mate, I was on a generational run over Christmas.
You're on a generational run this year. That's my first trophy of the year, man. Honestly.
Mate, I won this quiz. I won that quiz. I went on another show which is coming out on Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe on Friday actually, or maybe Thursday. It's coming out this week. Where oh my God, there's a final round quiz and I went nuclear, mate. I was hot. Oh.
SDS Mastermind. Do we need to bring in a late entry, season 3? Because you know that this is all your territory. Do you want to enter my arena?
Mate, I want to, bro. I want to conquer. I also won Luke Pingu's Christmas quiz as well. I'm everywhere, mate. So if anyone wants anything, including you, then
Sharky, I'm gonna talk to you after.
I'm here, mate. Thank you very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure.
I mean, I'm sure people know already where they can find you, but do feel free to plug anything.
More Lyés on YouTube. Give me a subscription on there, and then everywhere else just Lyés Bouzidi.
Thank you very much for listening, everyone. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll catch you next week for another episode. Hopefully, John will be back by then. He's in Australia right now.
Damn.
Really selfish of him. Don't know why he's done that. But yeah, we'll catch you next week.
Peace.